Well, hello and welcome back. If you have either been with us live for the first half of this session, which was getting started in StepShot Guides, or you are on to video number 2 because both of these will be on my channel. Okay, for those who don't know me, my name's Elaine Giles, long-time trainer, podcast host, geek. My YouTube channel is where you'll find tips, tricks and full training sessions for a huge range of apps, and StepShot Guides is the latest of those. This is part 2, sort of. It's a totally separate session, but it does follow on from getting started with StepShot Guides. Unless you are incredibly comfortable with StepShot Guides and you have used it for a while, I don't suggest you watch this without watching the first one. Because we're going straight into deep diving it. I am going to assume that you know what StepShot Guides is and you have used it. Not extensively maybe, but that you are comfortable in the creation side of StepShot Guides. There are 2 sides to StepShot Guides. There is the basics, what I would call the basics, which is getting started with it. And then there's the editing the templates side. If you don't mind how the output looks, then you don't need ever to think about editing the PDF templates. But if you do, if you want to force your brand onto it, or you want to do something quite advanced, then that's what this session is about. So, as I say, if you're watching and you're only getting started, then do check out the Getting Started session that I did. That one covers how to use StepShot Guides, how to create basic guides, how to output those guides to PDF, and how to publish them to WordPress. So that's what was covered in that one. But this one is taking it a step beyond, and you'll need toys. You will need things. The first thing you will need is a text editor. This is just purely practical. You will need a text editor. Of more significance, I think, although you won't be doing it without a text editor, the other thing you will need is patience. And this is because it can be initially overwhelming with the sheer amount of things that you're changing and where they are and how it all works. I can help you with the first, which is the text editor. The second, that's going to be up to you. But trust me, you can do this. It may feel overwhelming, but follow a process, follow a checklist, and you can do this. So in relation to the first, which is your text editor, I have, I'm quite a fan of text editors. I'll admit I've got more than one. One of my favourites is Sublime Text. That one is cross-platform because the application itself, StepShot Guides, is cross-platform. So you may want to edit this on both platforms, in which case Sublime Text is a good option. It isn't, however, free. There is a great trial, but it is not free. Another option, if you're on a Mac, is BBEdit. Now, surprisingly, BBEdit does have a free version. If that comes as a surprise to you, this is probably because traditionally it didn't, but traditionally there was a free alternative from bare bones software called Text Wrangler, which is no longer with us. They've replaced that with a free version of BBEdit. So what you need to do is download BBEdit, install it, and after 30 days it will revert into a different mode with a modified feature set. So be aware of that. You can install BBEdit and use it for free. If you are with us and you are on the Windows side of things, my favourite on Windows was always EditPad Pro. I must have used that for more years than I'm prepared to mention, but 20 is about right. A great editor. However, again, not free. If you want a free editor, then I'm reliably told, although I am not a great Windows user anymore, that Notepad++ is the way to go. So that's free, that's a Windows one. Now, I need to make the point that a text file is not an RTF file. The two are completely different. And the reason that I have to mention that is if you have other applications you are attempting to use for this, you might think, oh, well, I'll just use TextEdit on a Mac. Or I think it was TextPad on Windows, but I'm probably showing my age there, where they handle text, but they also edit RTF. And the problem with those is a text file is not an RTF file. And you could be inadvertently creating an RTF file that then breaks the entire thing because it needs to be a text file. So I would advise you steer away from anything other than a dedicated text editor. Now, what we're actually then looking at is going to edit what needs to be edited to create the customizations that you need. So the question arises, how? How are you going to do that? Well, first of all, you're going to need to know what it is you want to do. So don't just dive into this with, I wonder what happens if I do X, because you'll quickly break things to the point that you'll think, how do I put that back where it was? Because now I actually need it and I don't know what I'm doing. So first of all, have a plan of what it is you're trying to achieve. Is it just your logo you want to change, which is really simple? Or do you want that branding that's very integrated? If that's what you want, you're going to need to think about code. You are going to have to edit some code, but don't panic. I know not everybody is a code editor. I am. I have no problem with that. But not everybody is. And you look at all this code and you just think, I daren't change it. It will never work again. But don't panic. How we're going to do it is we are going to do one thing at a time. We're just going to change each element that needs to be changed, just one element at a time. Now, you can get away with changing just one thing and you're done. You have customized a template. And that, I'm not joking there. This is what the code looks like. Don't panic. Don't panic. But that line there, that's the name of the template. And that's it. If I go in and I change that, I'm done. I've made a template. I duplicate it, change that, and I'm done. Obviously, that isn't going to make it much different to look at. It's just going to be there as a separate template. But that's the starting point. You just need to change that bit there on line 2. Now, the rest is optional. Everything else that I show you is going to be optional. Some of it you will use, some of it you won't use. It depends how customized you want it. We are talking about taking something from the left there, which is just very, very, very basic, to something much more highly designed as you've got on the right. To get from A to B there's a lot of things that you are able to change. So instead of just changing that one thing that's incredibly easy, what you're going to want to do is the full Monty, the whole thing. You're going to want to change the header, the footer, the cover, the title, the author, the logo, the whole thing. And that's what we're going to be looking at. How do you do all of that? So that's enough of me prattling about what we are going to do. Let's go in and actually have a look at it and do it. So as I've said, I am presupposing at this point that you know the basics of StepShot Guides. So I will open up the application and I've got a file that I've made. This is actually the file that I made in the other session. And hopefully it's still where I left it. So let's go and get that, which was in my documents in here. And it was in my data. And it's the completed one. So I had a completely completed one that was finished with everything in it. And that's the one I'm going to be using. So have a think about opening it. There we go. Right, so this has got in everything that we need. It's got the screen captures that were taken, it's got titles, and it's got text descriptions for each step. So it is, as far as you're concerned in the creation of the content side, finished. It's complete. Next thing is to try and get it out. Now, as I showed in the basic session, this involves going to your export and publish and publishing it to a PDF. So I'm just going to go through the process. Some customizations are not involving editing any code whatsoever, and those are the ones that you're looking at now. You can change the guide title, you can change the author, you can change the description, and you can change the logo. The thing in there that's going to cause you the most consternation is probably the logo. In terms of, there is a recommended size for it, and you might want a bigger logo. Doubt you'll want a smaller one, but who knows, you might. And it recommends a certain size. So when you go into the My Settings, this is where you set that logo. So you don't, again, need to do a manual customization for that. You need to come in here and add your logo. But the recommended size is 240 by 80. If you want one bigger than that, it isn't going to look great when you do it. I will show you that. But that's where you set that up. So back in here, let's whip through again. That's where your basic customizations are, but they're not the ones that I'm talking about. I'm just going to go through this and actually publish it. Just to make a point at this stage that in here you'll see you've got 7 templates. There is a basic one, and then there are twins for light crypts and that is the document and the presentation, Pearl Shore document presentation, and a Wisdom document presentation. What we're actually looking to achieve by the end of the session is having another one in this space here that is completely customised. That's what we're after. So I will use this basic, this light crypts one, because I like that one. There's a reason for that. You'll find that out shortly. It's my favourite. So I'll publish that, and I will put that on my desktop. Where's my desktop gone? And we'll just save that there as that. Oh, what have you done? That's not what I wanted to do. And you know what? I'm going to call this number 1, because I am going to do a number 2. That's a very unfortunate way of phrasing that. So I'll swiftly move along. Right, so we have number 1. This is the PDF. It's just using what's in there. The only customisations are what I have actually put into the system. I've not done anything with the code yet. We will be looking at the code shortly. I'm exporting this so you can see that that graphic works fine as long as it is the right size. But I have another graphic that I want to use instead of this one at the top. So this is the graphic that I'm talking about. It's my logo at the top, and I want to use a different one. So we've seen that very quickly. I need to go into my settings though and change that graphic. So I'm hitting the cross to lose it, and then I'm going to browse to where my graphic actually is, my second graphic. My second graphic is not of the right size. So it's in my assets here. This is my graphic. Now, my graphic that I actually need here, the one I want to use, is 310 by 80. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to grab a pen. Oh, my pens are digital. There we go, I've got a pen. Right, what I need to do is make a note of what size that is, because that's not going to work properly. It's not the recommended size. But I'm going to forge ahead and open it anyway. Looks all right in here. So let's go through the export process again and use that one, because as I said, it's not going to work properly. It's not going to work properly because I totally ignored what they told me, which was to make it the right size. And this is my number 2 file, of which I'm saying nothing more about. So when that one's exported, I will open it, and I'll just show you that you do have the problem that I'm talking about, which is you've got your graphic and it is not quite the right size, but you think, well, maybe it'll just overhang into space. Well, no, it won't. There is an area which is the graphic. I mean, another option would be if it scaled it for you. But we'll see what happens. It doesn't do that either. So let's open that file. Do not make a liar out of me. Perfect. You've not. Right. What actually happens, so let's do the fit width. You can see I have changed the graphic. It's a great example for that, because there's a full stop at the end now. But what it has done is just chop off the end, which had the .com on it. So that's why you need to listen to what it tells you, which is what size it needs to be. But if you're happy to edit just one line of code, you can fix that. So that's one thing that we will fix. So that's what we've got in terms of what we can do without delving into the code. But let's delve into the code because we can. Right, the first place you need to go to start this, and I'm going to take you through the official way of doing it, which is there is a place that you can go. I will endeavour to get that link into the chat now. It's a long-winded link, and it takes you to a StepShot file on Atlassian. And in there you can download some templates. So what I'm doing here is attempting to get to that. Let's see if I can actually show you that, because I've actually already downloaded this. So that looks hopeful. No, that's a download. Oh, no, there it is. I'm right. I'm lying to myself. Okay, what do you mean something's gone wrong? Try later. Don't you love that in a live demo? Right, this is the page that you need to go to. And this has all the information in it that you need to edit it. It's quite wordy, though. There's not many graphics. And if you don't like code, you're going to be freaked out. So let's actually do this so we can understand it. But you need to start here because prerequisites are what you need to edit, and this is where you can get those files. So there is a portrait format and a presentation mode format. So click on both of those and download them. I'm going to be working with the portrait one though, and I have already downloaded it. So let me go and get that so you can see it. I have in here my downloads. There is the file that I am going to edit. This is my starting point that I'm going to edit. Okay. Now, it's a template file. So the first thing is you need to load it, because if you can't see it, you're not going to make much in the way of progress previewing it, are you? So what you need to do to that, you may think, I'll go and choose a template, I could choose it here, but no, you can't. You need to be aware, first of all, of where these files are stored, and they are stored in your documents. And in your documents, you will see that you should have a StepShot Guides folder. And within there, you will have templates, and within there, you will have PDFs. If you don't have that, don't panic, because how it appears is you work in here, in your settings, and you import your template. So just above the template logo and below the zoom, there is an import template option and a button to browse. And this is how you import one. This is the starting place. So I'm going to import it, and it's in my documents, my downloads folder, and it's that one at the bottom. Template for editing brackets document. So all I need to do is hit open on that. And it says it's been imported successfully. Right, to prove that point, go back to your export and publish and just go through the options very quickly to get to the stage where you can import, where you can actually export your content. And in here, we now do have 8 templates. Previously, we had 7. We now have 8. And this is the one that we've actually added that says template for editing. And that is what that template is called. So I'm getting a message that it's not letting you post URLs, and it was last week. I don't think you've logged in as a moderator. However you've logged in, I don't think you've logged in as a moderator, Mike, so you're not able to share them, because you should have a blue spanner, and you haven't. So you can sort that out so we can share these things. We'll make sure that they're available in the blurb, the text underneath it. What's the word I'm looking for? The text underneath it, you're with me. So if you're watching this later, you'll find it in there. Okay, so there's the template for editing that we've just imported. So we can see what we've actually got to start with. Let's export that right now and put that on the desktop. And see whether it has a cover and a header and a footer, and what exactly has it got. Because it's just a starting point. It is just a starting point. What we need to be able to do is to change virtually everything that's in there. So quickly, it's exporting this. There's, I think, from memory, there's about 11 steps in this, but the graphics are quite big because they were taken on my Retina iPad. So it's processing it away. It's exactly the same content as we had in file 1 and file 2. It's just going to look different because it was exported differently. And this is what that looks like. So I'll get that in page view. We have a header. We have a document title, which is installing an iOS update. This is the actual description. So you have a little bit more room. You could put an extra paragraph. This is where they've got the author at the bottom. And this is part of the logo that is on that first page. As we move on, there is a header and a footer. There's a page number. There's the graphic that we've got. That was our logo. Again, the end is missing because the size isn't right. But that's what we're starting to work with. That is what we have to work with. So bear in mind what that looks like, and I will close that down, and we will go and investigate what that has done by importing it. So I'm going back to my document up there and moving that down. Right, in here now, so in our StepShot Guides, templates, PDF, this is what it has actually imported. And it's named it template for editing. And we can open it and we can actually see what is inside it. Okay. Now, inside it, we have a config file, an XML config file. Don't freak out. Honestly, don't freak out. It's code, but never mind. There is another folder. It's called article, and that's where all the assets are stored. So if I open up that, we have an XSLT file that we don't need to worry about. We have a preview. That is the little thumbnail that we see actually in StepShot Guides. So we could change that and prettify it. That's what that is. Then we have an assets folder, and within that we have 2 more folders, the components and the CSS. The look and feel of your template is driven by CSS and the components. And the components we have are the footer. That's code, it's HTML. That's the language that drives the web. There is a header file, HTML, and there is a graphic for the footer and a graphic for the header. If we preview those, that looks familiar. We've just seen that in that PDF. And if we move up to the footer, we've just seen that in the PDF, and in the lower right-hand corner, that was the image that appeared behind the page number. Okay, so that's what we've got in the components. In the CSS, which is the last thing we've got, we have 3 elements. We have the front page image. That was the bit that appeared on the right-hand side of that front page, the cover page of the PDF. That's where it's coming from. If we change that out to a big red star, that's what we'd see on it. That's where it's coming from. The 2 other files are CSS files, which is another type of language. And what that is, the first one resets everything. And that's because CSS as a language has defaults, none of which you're probably going to want. So you always put in a reset file, and that strips it back to nothing. So you're starting completely from scratch. Then you have a styles file, style.css. And this is where your styles come into it. So that is what makes up everything inside that folder, is what makes that up. And you will find that in your users folder, username, documents, StepShot Guides, templates, PDF, and then the name of your actual template. Now, it doesn't matter what that folder is called. You can call that anything you like. That text of the title of the folder is not what is pulled through to StepShot Guides. What is pulled through to StepShot Guides comes in this file, the config file, config XML. So what we need to do is look at that file. Now I'll double click it. That will open with BBEdit, which is my text editor. And there's the code. Now, there's a lot in here. Well, actually, no, there's not that many lines, is there? There's 32 lines, but it's doing a lot. But the only bit we're interested in, remember line 2? It is that bit there. That is what determines what is shown inside StepShot Guides. That's it. So in there, I will put in Elaine's template, which was what I wanted that called. So Elaine's template. And then save the file. That's it. That's all I need to do. If I now go back into StepShot Guides, so let's do that. And let's bring it back up. And let's go through and do an export and publish again. Back through to export. Next, next. There's my preview. But as I scroll down, it says Elaine's template. So just by changing that one line of text, that changed the name in the interface of StepShot Guides. So far, so good. You've now got an extra template you've imported it through the interface, and as promised, making that one change, you have a customized template. If I use that now for the export, it would look identical to the way it did before. So now we have to step it up a bit. Step it up and change all the rest of it. So let's move on to the next bit. Right, going back to my document and moving that out of the way. Right, before I do anything else, personally speaking, I think it's good practice. So quitting out of that. To change the name of the folder in your folder system, change that to match the name that it has in the interface. Because if they're different, and you're trying to edit it, you won't know which is which. So I would go in there and I would change that to Elaine's template. So that's the second thing I would do. First thing being getting a name for the actual template. Right, having got that, sorted that out, I'd then move on to the rest of it. Now, one instant change that you can make, which is really simple to do and makes a massive difference to it, is if you changed this preview image, when you look at the preview of your file inside StepShot Guides, it would give you an indication of which one it was. So if you have them, for instance, in different brand colours, or maybe you have different brands, then it will tell you that. Give you a real obvious way of working out which one is which, in addition to the name of it. Now, what I actually created, because every element that's a graphic, you can do the same thing too. So you have the front page one here that looks like that. In the components, you had the header and the footer. And I thought to myself as I looked at that, so I can foresee that as I'm making templates, I'm going to want to change all of those elements, the preview, the cover page, the header, and the footer. And I thought, so rather than actually randomly go in and make a graphic, what if I made a nice little toolkit for doing that? And I did, in Affinity Designer. I worked out what size everything needed to be. I can guarantee you these sizes work. So over here I have my preview image. Then I have what the front page looks like on a small one. I've reverse engineered this out of the templates. So there may well be other ratios that will work, but I have tested these and I know they work. That's my header, that's my footer, and this is my cover page. Now, obviously, they don't look great either looking like that, but I'm only working on my preview at the moment. So if I go into my preview, I can actually toggle off. Am I in my preview? Where's my preview? Let's have a look. I am, I'm in there. Okay, so I don't want to see that grey. I don't want the text either, do I? That's what I want. I want to toggle that off. That's what I'd like my finished product to look like. So that is my preview. Now, you don't need to understand Affinity Designer to do this. You could do this in anything. The reason that I've done it in Affinity Designer is it's a kit. It's my toolkit. Now, for creating the images, I can do it in one place and export the entire lot together. But if you have an image that you want to use and it happens to be a reasonable size to work with, just use that image. It really doesn't matter. I will then export that. So I just want to export my preview image and I'll put that on the desktop and call it preview. We will revisit this file as I work through the rest of it. But for the moment, let's leave that alone. So this is my preview image. Let's have a look at that. That's what it looks like. It doesn't have a white background, does it? I'm wondering how that'll work, but never mind. Right, I should have exported it with a white background. Or any other colour, if I wanted it a different colour. Right, it's the preview image. So the preview image is down here in the root of... no, it's not. It's in the article root. There it is. Of that one. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be brave here because I've downloaded one and I've imported it. So I've always got the original to go back to if it really does go badly wrong. But what I can do here is drag and drop my preview into the location. You should get, as you're overwriting it, a message. An older item exists. Don't try keeping both. It'll cause havoc. So replace that. And now the image that I've got in there is my new image, which is that one. So let's go back to StepShot Guides and let's go through the export and publish process again. So next, and there is my preview image. So without even restarting StepShot Guides, we've changed the name of the template, we've changed the location of the template in terms of its folder name, and we've changed the preview element of that as well. So far, so good. That itself will not change the output. You've not changed any code that will change the output. So there is a complete disconnect between the preview image in this view and what the output will look like. The next step is to now go in and make those changes. So let's go back to our document and move it out of the way while we carry on working. There are three main styles managing the format of the text on your cover page. So that's where I'm going to start, the text on the cover page. Now, to see those, you need to go in and have a look where they all are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up from the assets this style CSS. This is the main area where the elements are controlled. So let's open up style CSS. Now I know it's code, don't freak out. All CSS is a set of instructions to tell something, so in this case, the text on our homepage, what it should look like. And to do that, it has a specific syntax, but it's not difficult to understand. And this particular file is really well annotated, so you can read the bits in grey, and it will tell you exactly what that is. So I instantly knew when I came in here, as I came in, that my guide description was the paragraph of descriptive text in my guide. My guide author would be my name, and my guide title would be the title. So those are the three elements on that home page, that cover page. Those are the three elements. Now, To make sure that I'm editing the correct thing, what I tend to do is change the colour to something rather lurid and check it's worked. At that point, I know I'm editing the right thing, and I can't tell you the number of times I've changed it and thought that's not working, only to realise I'm not editing the right bit. So let's start with the guide title. Right, you have these elements of code in here, these lines of code. And these lines of code are what determines what that guide title looks like, and they are handled together collaboratively. If I want to move the position from the left, it's at the moment 100 pixels from the left. If I wanted it 200 pixels, I would change that line. If I wanted to change the colour, I would change this top one. Now, you might look at that and think, what on earth is that? It's a green colour, but it's just a number. Every colour is given a reference number. Computers work with numbers, and working with colours no different. It needs a number to refer to. Now, if I wanted this to be red, how would I know what that should be? How would I know what number to put in there? Well, I have a good way of working with that, which is to go to a browser, which I am trying to drag across here now. Here we go. Here's my browser. And I actually just put in there what I want. So code, hex code for red. And it tells me that's the hex code for red. FF0000. I'll believe it. So I'll copy it straight from my browser, straight from Google, and just replace that number with the number it's telling me to use for red and hope for the best. Could be lying to me. Let's see. The next thing I want to change with it is, at the moment, it's to Homer. I would rather that was Avenir. I like Avenir. So all I need to do is actually type in Avenir and put a comma after it. I can delete to Homer and Geneva and sans serif if I want to, but the way CSS works, if it can't find Avenir, it will use to Homer, and if it can't find to Homer, it will use Geneva, and if it can't find that, it will revert to a sans serif font. So there's no harm in leaving everything there as it is and just putting Avenir at the front. If you want to, you can make that bigger. So at the moment, it's 26 points. Let's go crazy and make it 56 points. Hey, we want to see this when we've done it. So I've made a few changes. Let's just recap what those changes were. I changed the value for left to move it in more from the left, changed the colour, changed the font to Avenir, and changed the font size to 56 points. All I need to do now is save that file and close it. Let's go back in. And now we need to export it again. We need to actually run through the entire process, including the complete export at the end. The reason we need to do that is so we can actually see that it's working. So I'm putting it on the desktop again, and we will call that Custom 1. Right, because this is the first time we've exported this with any customizations other than names and things. This is now a real customization. This is going to be customized in terms of what it actually looks like in the output. So not within the interface, but actually in the output. So do we have any questions while that's doing that live? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing your mind is boggling as you look at this code. It's not complicated, honest. Just take it step by step. Even I would not dive in there and try and change everything all at once. What I do is I go in and I do what I'm doing now, which is test each individual bit. Now, that has completely worked. It is now red and it is indented double. So if we compare that with the Elaine Giles at the top and we compare it with the description underneath and the author, it's moved in double the distance from the left-hand edge. It's also a lot bigger. It is in Avenir and it's in bright red. So it's working and it's 56 points. Amazing. So we're in the right place and we only made 4 tiny changes and we've really changed how this looks. Things to do then are to go in and make more changes. So back to our style CSS. So we've done the basics there. We didn't make any changes to description though, or title. Now what I will do in here, I'm happy with the colour and stuff, but I will move it back to 100 from the left. And let's have a look, the author at the bottom, the author, which was, nope, you're in the middle, there's the author here. That is also Arial, and I would like that to be Avenir, so I will add that in. Notice that one's not to Homer and Geneva, that's a different font. Personally, I would probably change all the font to Avenir or whatever your font of choice is, because I like consistency. And you've got a disconnect there as far as I'm concerned with consistency. So I would have changed that. Right, I don't think the description needs to be bigger than 18, but I might decide I want the author a little bit bigger, so I might change that to sort of 36, just because I can. And you can change that to any colour you want as well, but you know, we've seen changing the colour, so I won't do that again. So I've made all the changes there. I'm not going to waste time, keep exporting it so you can see it, but just be aware that we have made a few more changes there. Right, so we've done that, we've exported it. We've made a couple more changes which we're not going to export, because the next thing we're going to work on is the cover page image, because this one's the biggie as far as I'm concerned. This is what's going to change it the most. So to do that, we need to work on where that is. And where that is in here. It's back in the system. It's still within the CSS, but it's in the folder for CSS, and it's actually an image. It's not the code. You actually need to change an image here. Remember what we've got? We've got that kind of funny shape coming in from the side. That is the home page image at the moment. We might want that to be something else. To do that, how I did it was go back to my toolkit in Affinity Designer, bearing in mind that that is just something that I've put together to help me work with this. And I've got two options here. I can either do a full home page, a full cover page, or I can do a smaller one that's got a graphic that will just place it in a certain location. So if I come into here and I turn off that, that's the image that we've got at the moment. I've put a little call out on it, so a little quirky call out like that. I'd like that displaying on my home page. Possibly not in that blue though. Possibly in a bit of a nicer colour, so maybe in an orange. So I would like that to replace the current home page image, cover page image. I'm obsessed with it being a home page as well. It's actually a cover page, although they're calling it front page, but never mind that. Right, so I'll save that, and all I'm going to do is just export that single graphic. So I'm just taking that out and I'm putting it on the desktop, just like I did last time. Again, you don't have to be an expert in Affinity Designer to be able to do this. Any image will do as long as it's around the right size. So that's what my image looks like in here. And I want to swap it in my CSS folder for the one that's called frontpage.png. To do that, I'm just going to drag and drop it in and replace. And that's it. I'm done with that. Now we've made a few more changes. Let's go and export it. So back into my author and into publish and on my desktop. And we'll have this one. This was custom to, this is the second time we've done it. So let's put that in there. Again, it'll take a couple of seconds to export that. And hopefully that will work. I just noticed actually, I'm hoping it works, because I didn't even go back to my document within StepShot Guides. So I'm hoping it hasn't loaded it into memory. I'm hoping that it will pull it in as it goes and realise I've made some changes. So hopefully it will. If you're wondering what size these images need to be, through trial and error, I went and I used the ones that were there and I backtracked them. But I also researched the right sizes for A4 sheets at 600 dpi and 300 dpi. So I'll put that in the notes under the video. So I'm going to open that file, and there it is. Possibly the text is a little bit big now, so I might change that down, but perfect. I've lost the graphic that was there. I've customized that with mine. I've now lined my text up to the left. I've made that name at the bottom bigger. Everything's looking really good. So I'm happy with that. So let's go back and make yet more changes. We can still make more changes. Right, so we've done the cover page image. We also have something in the CSS that will enable us to fix a problem. Let's just remind ourselves what the problem was. The problem was this Elaine Giles at the top should say .com, and it doesn't. The reason that it doesn't is because they gave us a size and we ignored it. By ignoring that size, it's cut the end off. So let's go and fix that. Right, to fix that, I'm going to go up a level here so we can see everything in our Elaine's template. It's a header element we're trying to work with. So we need to open up header HTML and open that. And that helpfully has opened in a browser, which isn't what we need. So I'm going to open that with an editor. So let's open it up in BB Edit. And there is the code for the header. So I'll go full screen with that. This is all the code that controls what that header looks like. It isn't difficult if you take it step by step. But I appreciate if you're not a code person, you're probably already overwhelmed. So let me guide you through what's there. It's not difficult. Right, we have some styles for the body at the top. For example, that name there is what determines what appears at the top of each page. This is what puts it in the middle of its position at the top. So it's not difficult. It's just a matter of finding the right bit. And in here, as we look at in here, we can see where that bit is, logo. So that name there, that dot logo, is what determines where the logo is placed and, more importantly for us, what size it is. Literally, without understanding the rest of it, just think what it is you're trying to change. Do you want to change the height? Do you want to change the width? Well, let me remind you, the graphic that they recommended was 240 by 80. Well, would you look at that? There is 240 wide and there is 80 high. But my graphic, because I wrote it down, was 310. So I'm going to go in there where that says 240 and I'm just going to delete the 240 and put 310 and save the file. I changed 3 characters. That was it. Come out of there. Let's go back in and do our custom number 3 export. I'm glad we're past number 2. Right, this was, I'll just tag a 3 on the end. And we want that on the desktop. This time what we're hoping is that the graphic in 2 locations is correct. First of all on the home page. I'm still saying home page, cover page, on the cover page. And also in the header area of each subsequent page. That would be great. So it's still outputting it. Poor thing. Machine's getting rather stressed. But it's doing it. It's coping. It's getting stressed because of all the recording stuff I've got on it. It's not getting stressed because of StepShot Guides. StepShot Guides is behaving well. Right, so let's open that file. Oh, didn't do it. Why didn't it do it? Let me have a look. Ah, there's 2 of them. Okay, it did it on that one. That's right. That's correct. We're going to have to change that in 2 places, obviously. That does actually make sense because the place we changed it was actually in the header. We changed it in the header and it was called logo. So that has worked. We now have the .com. So let's go back in and see where the problem is lying in terms of open up. Oh, I've done it again. No, you need to edit it, not open it. Open it with BB Edit. Right, we need to find what we need to edit to make that work because that didn't work. No, because I didn't do it properly, did I? Let's go down a bit. Front page logo. And would you look at the size of that? 240 wide, 80 pixels tall. Let's change that from 240 to 310 and save that and do another export. So quit that, back in here, publish. Yep, we want that on the desktop and this is number 4. I promise this time it will work. Hoisted by my own petard then, in a bit of a rush. Right, so we'll get this one out. That will fix the homepage one. So we've done quite a lot already in there. There is actually nothing to stop you doing more customizations with it, which I will show you when we've made sure that this is actually working. But some of the other things you can do, I don't actually like where the header is positioned. So I'll show you this in this file that we've done, number 4. Right, we now have a .com, as promised. But in here, I think that's a little bit tall. When you zoom into the width of it and look at the top, not the top there, the top there we go. There's a gap underneath, but it's really quite close to the top edge. That wouldn't print too well at all. And I just think aesthetically, it could do with moving down a little bit and moving away from the margin on the left, away from the edge of the page on the left. Right, to do that, how would we make that change? Well, we'd need to go back into the header. And for the 3rd time, I've opened it, not opened it with. Get there in the end. Right, we will open that and edit it. But what do we need to edit? Well, it's not the front page logo, unless that is what you want to change the position of, because that has a left position of 100 and a top of 150. If you wanted to move it up, change that one. But we want to change the logo, which is on every page. So it's this block of code there. We have a position of left 2 pixels and top 5 pixels, which in my opinion just isn't enough. Now I don't have much scope for moving it. I can't change the top to sort of 100 because it would disappear into the page. But I can make it a little bit more than 5. And through trial and error, I found 14 worked well for my logo. From the left-hand edge, 100 would have been too much. But again, trial and error, 20 works quite well. So I'll put 20 from the left. So I've changed that from 2 and 5 to 20 and 14 and save. And that's all the change I need to make in there. Let's very quickly go through and do that export again. I should have done something with one step, shouldn't I? And then it would have exported slightly faster. But hey, we can do this. We can do this. No, I don't want to do that. You're number 5. Right, 5. Okay, so it's exporting that. Now, there are also other things that you can do. You know, if you do need a much bigger image, you could change that completely. Be aware of the knock-on effect of doing it, but you can actually do it. So there is no harm in doing that. What I could do as well, you've got actually 2 options if you think about your logo. You can either change that within StepShot Guides, or you could actually just add your logo to the cover page directly wherever you're editing your graphics. So you do have a couple of options there. So let's open this one up and have a look at the subsequent pages and see it has moved it away from the left-hand edge and it's moved it down just enough so it now looks more centred top to bottom. Looks more centred top to bottom. And that looks great. So we're winning. We're winning. But we can still make more changes. Remember, we're doing the full Monty here. Oh, there's a thought. Right, we're going to make more changes. Right, one thing that I'd like to change is the actual header image. So let's have a look at that header image. That's what we're seeing at the moment. It's quite nice, but it could be better for me. It could be better. It could be maybe more colourful. I might decide to do this in conjunction with other things in terms of making the header background a different colour and changing my logo to white. There's an option. I could do that. So I want to radically change the header. While I'm at it, I can radically change the footer. So let's go in and edit those 2 graphics within my design kit for this application. And I have header and I have footer. There's footer. Let's just zoom into those. So there's my header and there's my footer. Now I've got these things in so I can just explain to you what we're looking at. But if I actually do that, there's my footer. And my header is up there somewhere. There's my header. And I've got that. Now I definitely don't want that on that side. If I did, it would need to be, this little shape would need to be the full width. So let's make it full width. And it would need to be much bigger because if it wasn't, my graphic would hang off it. I'm also not overly keen on the colour. So I'll put that colour behind there and I will put that colour there. And that will change what the header and footer actually look like. So to do that, I need to export these graphics. So I'll do them one at a time. There's my header. Stick that on the desktop. And somewhere else in here is my footer. There's my footer. And put that on the desktop. Okay. And let's minimise that. So here's my header, here's my footer. They need to go in the right location, which is in that components folder where their brethren are, the ones we're using at the moment. These, because what we're doing is actually changing them. So drag and drop up to components, replace and replace, and I now have my new header and my new footer. Now before I export that, let's make a few more changes, even more changes. Right, I'm going to open up the header. I've remembered to open it with this time. And within here, there is some code that is inside the file, but actually it's commented out. So let's have a look at it. We have some code round about this one here. Some code here, which is line 105. Now, you've got code there, and what that line does is hide something. So you actually, the file has the ability to do something, to show something, and it's not there at the moment because that code is hiding it. And if you look at the line above, it says delete, and then it lists the code to show the guide title on each header of the guide. Interesting. So it actually wants me to delete the style element. So it's this bit here that it wants me to delete. Just that bit there, exactly what is listed there between the square brackets. So with it selected, I will delete it. It's not a problem to delete it. You've got a copy of this file to go back to, and you can also, if you can just remember, if you want to go back to it and you think, I can't remember the code, it's that. It's just that, and it goes at the end there. That's all you need to do. Copy that, paste it back. But we will save that, okay? Now, the other thing that you can do with that, that's the title. That is the guide title. Now we've enabled it so you can actually see it. But you can also change what it looks like. So we have a title style a little bit further up the file. This is just more CSS, but it's not in the style CSS. It's actually in the header. It makes sense to be in the header because it's with the other elements that format the header. But what it's telling you in here is, it's Verdana, and I like Avenir. So I'm going to change that to Avenir. It's at the moment is 20 points. That may or may not be too big for you. I'm going to change that to 16 just in case it is. Obviously, what I would really do with this is trial and error. I would constantly export it and check every little element that I'm doing. The only reason I'm not doing that is purely to save time during the demonstration. So I've saved the file there. I've changed the format of it. Close that. And this time I will do an export because we've made quite a few changes. So let's go and make sure we've got that. Publish, put it on the desktop. I'm losing count, but we're up to number 6. And export. So it'll take a little bit of time to export that. What we're looking at this time when we open it. Mainly it's the other pages, not the cover page. It's the header and footer, what they actually look like. And it's also the fact that now there should be some text in the header that wasn't in the header before. Before, it didn't have the title of the guide in the header. It did have the title of the guide on the cover page, but it didn't have it in the header. It didn't have it anywhere else in your document. If we go into here, you can now see we do. There's the header with the background colour. Zoomed into an alarming percentage, that's why it's a little bit blurry. And there is the title of the guide that we've put in. If we move down to the footer, there is the footer. Now, one issue with the footer is, now the page number's not vertically aligned on the shape. My OCD will kick in about that. But we've not made any changes to the footer yet, but we're going to. That's the next thing we're going to do. I personally think that page number's a little bit too big, and also black's a little bit in your face. It could do with being white. So we will go and change that. But point to note is we've made the changes and it's actually come through, it's worked. We've totally changed how that guide looks by changing 2 graphics and 1 line of CSS to make sure that the title is placed at the top of the page. If you would like that title maybe in the footer at the bottom, you can do that too. Just copy it out of the header, paste it into the footer, and you're done. But the next thing we're going to do is have a look what we can change in the footer, because there's elements that you can put in the footer. To do that, we need to go to the footer HTML file and open that in your text editor, which for me is BBEdit. And let's have a look what we've got in here. Well, first of all, we've sorted out the image. The image is fine, but we do want to make a couple of changes, the ones I've mentioned. It would be good if the page number could be white and if it was a little bit smaller as well. So let's have a look what we've got in here then. And I appreciate you might be overwhelmed. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're just looking in here for elements that we need to change. And page looks like a good place to start, doesn't it? We do have font size 26. It even tells you next to it what it's used for. It's the font size for the page number. And I happen to know that that at 26 is way too big. But if I change that to 14 points, it looks better. Another issue for me is I'd like that page number font to match, so I'll put Avenir in. We've got the size correct, we've got the font correct. What we don't have is the colour. But line 33, it tells you the styles for the page number in the footer, and it's the font colour for the page number. Great stuff. But what's the code for white? Now, sometimes with colour, you can actually just put white. But let's be precise about it. Let's go back to, we actually had that, didn't we? Probably in another browser tab. Where have you gone? Here we go. There's our hex code for red. Well, let's just change that to white. It's all the Fs. FF, FF, FF. So copy that and put that in there and save the file. So we've done two things. We've changed the colour of the font, the size, and in fact we've done more than that. We've changed the font face, the colour and the size. But there's other things we can do in here as well. We can actually add elements, and these elements, again, they're already there for us. We're just not seeing them at the moment because they are surreptitiously hidden. We have here a date, but again, this is the date, line 64. That's the date. That's the line of code that does the magic that lets us see the date. But it says, uncomment the element below. So I'm looking at 63. Uncomment the element below to show the date in the footer. Now, if you're not a coder, you might not know what commenting and uncommenting means, and you freak out at this point, but don't. If you look, BBEdit, my text editor, colour codes the code. So some of it's blue and some of it's black and some of it's pink, some of it's grey. You don't need to know why it does that or what it's doing it for and why it's fantastic. It just makes it easier for me to edit it. If you're a coder, that's fantastic. You instantly glance at that and think, oh, my variable's pink, and you go and edit it. That line is grey. Line 63 and 64 are both grey. It's a dark grey, but they're not black. That's because they're commented out, and BBEdit is set to show my comments as grey. Uncommenting something means removing those symbols from the beginning and those symbols from the end. So literally select, delete, go to the beginning, select, press delete. That's it. That line of code is now what we call uncommented. You can see that because it's changed colour. We now have blue and maroon. So it's live code now. Now it's going to do something. And the something it's going to do, as you can see from line 63, is show the date in the footer. That's what it will do. So save the file there. I may need to make some changes to other things to format, but at the moment I'm going to leave that alone and come out of it. Go back to StepShot Guides and publish, publish, publish. We want that on the desktop, and we're up to number 7, lucky 7. And export that. So this time we're concentrating on the footer. We'd already changed the image in the background, but we're now concentrating on the actual content of the footer. We want a white page number in a better size, so it's more evenly spread out vertically, so the vertical alignment is better, and put the date in the bottom as well. So that's what it's preparing for us. And it should be just a couple more seconds. Okay, and let's open that file. Nothing to see on the home page, move on. But on this one, we actually have the date and we have a page number. Now, the date, far too big, so that definitely needs reformatting. And the page number's a little bit high, but I can live with it. I can live with it. I won't bore you by moving it, but you can move that if you want. But that date, that's not good at all. But we're winning. We've actually got the date in there, so we're getting there. Let's go back into the footer and open that in the code editor. Right, let's have a look what we've got on here. That's what brought it in, so that's absolutely fine. That's uncommented. We uncommented that, and that brought the date in there. Right, let's have a look by moving up what else we have here. We need to find where we can format the date. And we actually have this style. So styles generally, not always, but class styles generally start with a full stop. So it's .iso date. And we go into there and we can format it. You can see the problem with it is it's 26 points. What we need to do with that is make it smaller. So I think the other one was 14. I think it was 14. And it was Avenir, so it wasn't quite so in your face either. Avenir. And you can change the colour if you want. I won't make that white, obviously. It doesn't have a background, so it would just disappear and we'd start to panic as to where it was, etc. Right, the page number was this one here. And let's have a look at that swiftly. We did make a few changes to that. Yeah, we could change the top, which is a distance, which is a percentage, which would mean I'd need to fiddle and and check that it actually aligned properly. So I'm going to leave it alone. Let's absolutely leave that alone. So let's have a look at the rest of it. Is there anything else we need to change? I think we can get away with that. There are other things we may want to do. So there are other things that we can do with it, but that will do for now. That's quite a few changes. So come out of that, we'll do our 8th export, and then we'll move on to the rest of it. So publish that, desktop number 8. So it will get that exported. Okay. Now, one thing we haven't changed at all is the actual text of the steps. We've left that alone because it doesn't actually look that bad. But if you want to, you can reformat that as well. You can reformat all of it. Anything you see in your output PDF, you can change all of it. So you're not stuck with anything. You can change everything. So I'll just open this one. Make sure that the footer's looking fine, which it is. We've changed the date there. Much smaller, much better, much better. So we're good to go with that. Now, the text I'm talking about now is, let's move down to some of these. I don't think I've got that much text in any of them, to be honest, but let's have a look at that one. We have here the title of that, and we have the text of that. I don't mind that font, that's fine. Knowing me, I'd probably make it Avenir. Bit of a fan of Avenir. I can do that, that's simple. But one thing that does drive me insane with this particular template is, why is the graphic above the title? It would make much more sense to me to have the title and then the graphic and then the paragraph of text that's explaining what we're seeing in the graphic. So basically, the output is in the wrong order as far as I'm concerned. Now, you may be thinking, well, okay, it's one thing to change the font, but to actually tinker with the code and get it to put things out in a different order is taking things a bit far. But you can actually do it. So let's go in and see how we do two things there. So the first thing to discuss is, how do you change the actual text of the instructions and the titles and things like that? How do you change that? And how you change that is back in Style CSS. So remember, the Style CSS cascading style sheet is what changes the look of it. We've already looked at the guide description, the guide author and the guide title. Those were the things we changed on the home page. I've done it again, home page, cover page, the cover page of the document. I would that YouTube would let me edit this in such a granular way I could make myself not look an idiot, but it doesn't, so you're stuck with it. And so am I, sadly. Right, but you do have other elements here, and the elements that we're going to look at are these. This is what puts the space in it. So the steps wrapper gives you space at the bottom, padding at the bottom if you want. You also have a content wrapper that's giving you a margin. And it puts padding, which is space, on the left and the right. So all of this is changeable. If you're comfortable with CSS, you're probably excited by this point. But I'm going to concentrate on the things we actually see that you understand, which is we have a step title. And at the moment, it's Tahoma. And it's 16 points. I'm going to make that Avenir. And just for good measure, I'm going to change the code to red, which I happen to know, sadly, is FF0000. So I've made a change to that. Now, one great thing, so bear in mind what I'm doing here. I'm editing the look and feel of it in lots of different ways. So I've come down to line 101, and I'm told here I've got a style. Read what it says. Uncomment the code below to add numbers before the step title. Oh, I'm liking that. I am liking that. Now, to uncomment in CSS, the symbol's different, but the principle's the same. So I am commenting that out, getting rid of that comment and losing that. So what I've done is bring that code to life. So now I should get a counter. So I'll save that. Right, another option I've got here working down is my heading title, which is Verdana, and I would like it Avenir. We're seeing a common thread here, Avenir. So I've changed that as well. That's the title. Then now bearing in mind this is a heading title. So what is a heading title? We put some heading titles in. Heading titles are the ones you add manually. So in session 1, where I looked at the basics of it, heading titles exist between the steps. So I've changed that to Avenir, and I'd like those counted as well. So I'll uncomment this. Not comment it out, but comment it back in. Then I have my step description. Oh, guess what? That's Arial, and I'd like it Avenir. So I'll change that. So I seem to be making quite a few changes here. And I am doing. What I would do, and I recommend you do, is check after each one. Unless you're really comfortable with it, in which case don't worry about it. Just do what I'm doing, which is going and changing in the lot. So I've gone through all of that. That looks like everything that I can change in there to get a completely different look for the output. So I'll close that down and I'm back to my screen StepShot Guides, and I am going to republish. And I am up to number 9. This time when I export it, what I'm looking to check now is the graphics. I'm looking to, not the graphics, the numbers, the numbering, to make sure that the steps and the headings are all numbered, and to make sure that my font that I made red has come through as red. What else did I change? What else did I change? Oh, the font here to have an ear. So let's make sure that all of that is there in number 9. And then we can look at the rest of it, which is the content order. The content order. This one's a little trickier, but it can be done. And it's sort of the holy grail, really. If you can do that, you can do anything. Okay, so my steps are numbered and they are red. And if I go down, I did put in some headings. I know I did. And they should be numbered as well. Or maybe I didn't. Oh, I don't think I did. Oh dear, I don't think I did. I did in my other one. I did in the demonstration, but I don't think I did in my, here's one I did earlier. But if I had, they'd be numbered. Honestly. So all of that's in there. But you can see that this is, as far as I'm concerned, not right. I would like this heading. Oh, you're trying to edit. No, don't edit. My heading, my settings app, I would like above the graphic. So I'd like settings app, graphic, and then my block of text down there. That's what I would like to see. And that's what we're going to do next. So when we come on to number 10, it's going to be in a different order as well. This is ambitious. This one's ambitious. Right. The order of the final output is determined by the template. So if you use one of the built-in templates, you may find it looks completely different from one of the other built-in templates. So to prove that point, let's go back and look at this number 2 thing that we started with much earlier. In here, they're in the right order. My settings app title is at the top, then I have my graphic, and then I have my text. So that's great, that's in the right order. But I've customized an entire template and it's not in the right order. So I need to go in and fix that. To do that, you need to edit this file up here, which is the article XSLT. Don't try saying that after a drink. XSLT, which is an XML transformation file, if you're interested, which I know you're probably not. But what you need to do is to open it up first. So I'm going to open that in BBEdit. And it's going to be a lot of code. It's not CSS and it's not really HTML. It's got all sorts in it, but you don't need to worry, because I will tell you exactly where the code is that you need to change. We are looking for 3 elements. And the first one of these is on line 116. And that is start title block. You also have here start screenshot block. If you actually look at line 96, it tells you, which is a comment, below can change the order of the title, of the image title description in the step. And each one of these is a block. This is the screen step, the screenshot block. That's what that is. This is the title block, so another block. And this is the description block. So just visualize what it is that we're trying to fix. If we look at the order these are in, screenshot, title, text, it's in the wrong order. If we just take the screenshot block and cut the thing out, so Command and X, get rid of these blank lines, and then go down to after the title and paste it in, that's it. You've changed the order. So just save that file. Simple as that. If you wanted it in a different order where you wanted the text, the description at the top, do that as well. But that one, I think, is the best way of doing it. So I'm going to come out of there, go back into here and do another publish. You will learn in the end I want it on the desktop. And export that. So that's number 10. We've got one step after this, just one step, which is the best one. This is where you're going to back it up and share it with your friends or your colleagues. You may have one person in the office that is happy coding, and you can explain to them what you want, and then just send them instructions as to what you'd like. They can do it on their machine and then share that with you. So let's open this file now. Our finished file. Let's have a look. We now have the title at the top. We have the image and we have the description underneath. It was that simple. It was just a matter of opening one file and moving one block of code to the right place. That's all it needed. So that's why when you use StepShot Guides and you use the built-in templates, that's how you might find something's in the wrong order and you think this template's perfect apart from that, and you can go in and you can change that. So that's now in, as far as I'm concerned, the correct order. So let's fit the page, have a look at some of the other pages. You can see it's completely in the right order. Just makes sense to me that they look at the graphic first and then you read the bit underneath, but the title needs to be at the top. For me, if it's not, I get confused as to which step the graphic belongs to. So I like the graphic sandwiched between the title and the description. So that's the logic of it. Right, so I'm going to come out of that now. And let's move that and come down, get that out of the way. What we have in here, now I also need to mention to you that for me, my documents are in iCloud Drive. That means they would be on other machines. They would get updated automatically. If I've got a laptop and a desktop and I create a new template on my desktop, if you have iCloud Drive documents, desktop and documents enabled, it will synchronize for you and it will automatically appear on your laptop and vice versa. So I do have that enabled. That's why it's in iCloud. But basically we need to go to your documents folder, your StepShot Guides, your templates, your PDFs, and look at your PDF templates. And I only have the one, this one. That's my customized template. Now, all you need to do to share this is to make this a zip file, which on a Mac is very simple. Right click and compress. That's it, it's done it. What's happening now is it's actually uploading that to iCloud, which is why the little cloud logo's there, because as I said, this is iCloud enabled on mine. So first step, step 1, locate your template folder, Elaine's template. Step 2, make a zip file of it. Step 3, you need to change the extension from the word zip to, and this must be spot on right, SSPDF template. There we go. I'm double checking this because I'm about to do something insane. SSPDF template, that is correct. Right, so that's changed the file type of it to template. And I'm going to take that out and put it on my desktop. So bear in mind what we actually have here. That's our template, and that is what appears in here and makes that visible. I'm going to do something insane. I'm going to delete it. So I'm going up there and boom, it's gone. Now, in here, it might not go straight away because I'm actually on that page. But if I come out here and go back into export and publish, unless it finds it in the trash, which it's not, it's actually gone. I've deleted it. I've done all that work and I've deleted it. But fear not, because your colleague could have sent you this on the desktop. What you need to do to import it is do exactly what we did before when we started, which is go back to My Settings, go to Browse. It's on the desktop, isn't it? Oh, now that's not working. What happened there? Did I misname it? Did I misname it? I don't think I did. Oh no, I don't think I did. Right, okay, let's try a different name for that. It could be it doesn't want special characters in it. It might not like spaces. So let's see if that's the problem before I start to get really concerned. It doesn't like it. What's going on? Okay, what I'm going to do to try and fix that problem is I'm going to see what it was called in my downloads. What was it called in there? Maybe I didn't name it right. Okay, what I'll do is, to make sure, somebody's screaming at me if I've done this wrong, aren't they? That I've not named it correctly. I will get rid of that and I will paste that in. I will make this work. Oh, it worked in rehearsals, doesn't it always? It's not having it. It's not having it. Did I do that right? Compress the folder, change the extension, delete the template, and then import it. You're supposed to work. Why aren't you working? Oh, no. Let's stick it in there. Are you the same as you? You are. You are, but you're saying you're a zip archive. I will give it one more go. If that doesn't work, I will work out what's wrong with it and put that in the notes under the video. No, I don't want a new graphic. I want to import from my downloads folder. And you're finding the old one and not the new one. Why not? Oh, you just don't like me. I will work out what's wrong with that and I will put that in the blurb underneath. But you can re-import it. Let's use that one as an example and bring that one back in. That's what we should be seeing. And also our things should be there. If you have a problem like that, let's actually fix this for those who may have a problem like that. And you're screaming at me, it doesn't work and I can't fix it. Right, this template that I've got from somebody, this one here, it's not working. But it's still a zip file as far as it's concerned, so that could be the problem. Let me see if I can, let me try this a couple of ways. What it's done is, I've changed the extension and it, unceremoniously, has put a zip extension on the end of it, which means the StepShot Guides isn't recognising it. That's the problem. So I need for a start to change the extension. Let's try that. Are you sure you... Yes, and I was the first time, but you didn't ask me. Right, so I now have that. Let's see if we can import that. So browse to that. And this time it's on the desktop. It's alive because it's only alive if it understands the extension. So you can see now that that is selectable. And I can open it and it's imported it. And if I go to export and publish, let's go through that. And I have it at the end. In fact, I have two now. I have another copy of my template for editing, so I can make another template. And I also have the one I deleted and then shared with myself, as it were. So you need to make sure, what should have happened was macOS should have prompted me to change the extension and it didn't. It just added that and then added zip to the end of it, which it shouldn't have done, but it did. But that's how you fix it. So bring up the info and change it that way. Okay, we have made lots and lots of changes to that template. And that's how you create a completely customized template. And you can take that as far as you like. You can have whole front covers that are different. Everything you can change, absolutely everything you can change with a template. There is no limits to it. So let's go back in and let's have a recap of that. I said it was incredibly simple. Just to change a template, you only need to change one thing. And that is in the config file, just change the name on line 2. That's all you need to do. But I took that a lot further then because obviously doing that doesn't give you a completely customized template. The second thing I did was change the name of the folder. I changed that in this example to Elaine's template. And then, as you can see last time, I had a blue speech bubble. There you go, in my YouTube demo. And it appears in there. But after that, once you've done that, you are good to go and change absolutely everything. So just to give you a reminder of all the things we changed, I changed the cover page text. I actually changed all of it. And I had a block there that was the cover page text in the middle. I did all of that. Changed the image. Now, I've put there a full page image, but I actually used a little image at the side. But you could have put a full page one on if you'd have wanted. I also changed the footer image completely. We added some page numbers and we added the date. Then changed the header image. Changed the date on there as well. Don't know why I've got that one twice. I added the guide title to the top and I didn't actually need to do anything other than delete some commenting. So I didn't need to know how to code it. I just needed to know enough to know what bits to delete. Then we formatted the actual text, so the body of it. There was the step title, the step description. We added numbers, if you remember. We added that to the step title. There was also formatting involved for the heading title. We did add some numbers to the heading title, but sadly we didn't get to see it. That was because I hadn't got any headings in the file. I'll make sure I have next time. Then there was the logo. We moved the logo, so position the logo on the cover page. We even changed the order. So the order that the default template had was the image at the top, and we flipped that round. We changed the order of the content. Then it was a matter, and you can do this to back up your templates or share your templates or have somebody else build you a template and how they get that to you. And that process was, you can create custom template in a folder with the name that you give it. You then zip the contents of the entire folder. This one, in this case, custom zip. Then change the extension, be careful with that, macOS is doing its own thing. So SS PDF template. And then when you import it, it turns itself back into a template for you on the machine that you have imported it into. Now, one thing that you can do with this, and it works particularly well with the presentation templates that are included with StepShot Guides, and that is you can unbake the PDF cake, which is something my clients ask me to do a lot. And what I mean by unbake the PDF cake is we've got a PDF. You've seen all those PDFs that we've created, but they're PDFs and they don't edit easily. Obviously, we can configure how the PDF looks and what the content's got, but it's not easy to just go in and think, I'll just put a line there, or I'll just highlight that, because it's not, PDF is meant as a delivery format. It's not really an editable format. But there are options that you have where you can unbake the PDF cake. What happens in that circumstance is that you start with a StepShot file, you create a PDF, and then you convert it to, in this case, actually, it would be a PowerPoint file. And you can actually do that. Didn't actually get time to show it, but bear in mind, you can actually do that. Now, there was a lot that we looked at, an absolutely huge amount. So I've made a checklist. So I'll put a link to that in the text under the video. You get in touch with me and I'll make sure that you have access to that checklist. And then literally just follow the checklist and make the changes that you need. You don't have to make all the changes, only the changes you need. And I know it's been a complicated session, particularly for people who just want to make a lead magnet. I just want to post something to my blog. If you want to post it to your blog, that's simple. Just go with the built-in one. But if you want a really nice PDF, bear in mind you only have to do this once. And all I'll say with this is if you feel like quitting, remember why you started. And you started to make the future easier. So there's this pain point at the beginning where you're there for 3 hours scratching your head. But there's the sense of achievement when you do it, which you will, because if you get stuck, you can always mail me, will be immense, an immense sense of achievement. And the second thing is every time you output a PDF, you don't have to do a thing. It's just there. And every PDF after that, the first one you do will halve the amount of time it took, and the second one will quarter it, etc. And you'll be down in the end by the time you're up to your 100th PDF. The investment of that time at the beginning will be well worth it. So don't give up. Keep going, and if you get stuck, let me know. Right, in terms of sessions, I often go live on YouTube. I keep saying this is my last one before Christmas, but really this is my last one before Christmas because I need to put the tree up and I haven't even managed that yet because I've been going live so much. But usually I am live on YouTube quite frequently. You will find that. To check that out, if you go to youtube.com/ElaineGiles, which is probably where you are now, to be honest. Just click my name underneath it and you'll find that. You'll find details of my upcoming events and also the events that I've already done. So you will find those on my channel. But for now, I am going to say thank you very much for being with us. If you have made it this far, which must be easy an hour 15 into this, congratulations, I'm impressed. But the rationale was I'm attempting to make your life easier and make your document creation faster in the future. Hopefully that will have helped. As I say, if you are stuck and you are cursing me, get in touch with me. If you're not stuck and you've just done it and thought, wow, I'm happy with that, let me see it. Send me a file. Send me a link to your blog. Let me see it. I would love to see what you have created with the instruction that was included in that session. So you can find me on any of those social media things there, and always, of course, on YouTube. I am always available on YouTube. So I'm going to head off and see if anybody has got questions. If they have, and I have a list of questions, I'll add that to the checklist as well. But I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you next time.